Hello and welcome to Eavesdropping at the Movies. I'm Mike.
And I'm Jose.
And we've just been to see Send Help, survival horror thriller comedy, directed by Sam Raimi, written by Mark Swift and Damien Shannon. I had a fantastic time with this. We should say we've been away for a while.
Yes.
You know, I've been sort of moody through January, I suppose. I've been in the process of leaving my job, which has now just happened. And I start my new one tomorrow. You've been a bit ill, you know.
Not a bit ill, I've been really ill, yeah.
Sing it, sister. How ill have you been?
No, I had a cold, and that, I got rid of in about a week. But then almost immediately after, somehow I got a flu, and that really knocked me out. I mean, I was literally in the sofa, unable to do anything.
Yeah.
Kind of, for weeks and weeks and weeks. So I'm now on the mend, though I think my voice is still, a bit...
You sound beautiful to me.
Okay. Shut me up and let's keep going.
So we're back at the cinema. And
I'm dying, but nobody cares.
So we're back at the cinema. And what a fantastically fun film this is. So it's Sam Raimi, at his most Sam Raimi. I guess the films that he might be best known for in general consciousness are the Spider-Man trilogy in 2002, 4, I think 7, which were really good fun. And they had, some of his kind of hallmarks, but they were mainstream studio movies. But he made his name in the 80s with Evil Dead. With these really grungy kind of close-up, mad-eyed people covered in mud and blood, and and that's what this harks back to in some respects, much more than. I mean, it's so much fun, and you really feel kind of Raimi hallmarks.
Well. So what are the Raimi?
Well, to me, the Raimi hallmarks are that face, which as the action starts to kind of ramp up, you see that really classic sort of look of someone whose hair is covered in blood and mud, and half the face is mud, the other half is blood, wide eyes, white teeth, madness in the eyes. It's real thing. And you get these shots. You get these earlier on, actually, when they're chasing the boar, of the camera's low to the ground and highly mobile, and it's tracking forward. It's a shot from the boar's point of view as it's running, and it's going through the underbrush, and that's again very Raimi. That kind of really intense forward tracking shot, and a huge amount of extremely cartoony, non-serious gore and violence.
Yes, I mean, so. First, let's agree, I had a great time at this as well. Right? But I do think that it's a film that's made by the two stars, Rachel McAdams and Dylan O'Brien, who are fantastic in it, and the direction. Yeah, but to me, it falls short of being a good film.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think there's a kind of... I don't know, a betrayal, really, or what I see as a betrayal. Because, the initial story is this brilliant woman, stopped by, these bros upholding kind of patriarchal privilege and denying her what she is worth, right? And then you think the story is going to be about the man kind of learning about her value. Right. And then I think the betrayal comes when they turn her into a crazy woman, right? And not only into a crazy woman, but the stereotype of a particular kind. This woman who's driven mad by longing that she can't understand and by not being able to have a man, right? Yeah. The film all becomes about kind of capturing this man and making him love her, right?
Oh, did you read? I didn't read it as about her making him love her at all.
Oh, yes.
I did. Okay.
Well,
I mean,
absolutely.
I read it.
I mean, so maybe maybe I need to explain more because
yeah.
It happens at various stages, right? The first stage is making her appreciate her, and then it has things that are completely nonsensical. This thing about him poisoning her to kind of go on the raft, and you think, why would you need to poison her to go off on the raft, right? So I think there are several stages in which the film kind of just doesn't make emotional sense to me, right?
Okay. How does the poisoning of her relate to her wanting him to love?
Well, I'm just talking about stages in the film
Yeah.
that don't make emotional sense.
Okay.
Right? So you think the film is going to be about him finding out her worth, right? And coming to consciousness of that. Yeah, but then kind of, it first changes that by him poisoning her, which actually, there's nothing in the first part of the film that you think that this guy would poison someone, right? Like, yeah, it's kind of almost like it's a kind of attempted murder or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't make sense to me. And then she does the same, yeah, kind of later on. Then the thing about her killing the girlfriend,
Mm-hmm.
right? You know, you don't think of that character as kind of, you know, going to that extreme. But maybe you find out that that's an extreme, you know, she's willing to have. And then kind of you realize in that whole conversation in the house near the end that it has been about her wanting to get him to love her.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting because once that... I think you're right? Because once that speech was happening where he was trying to say, okay, I will be with you, I will stay here, it's a perfect paradise and everything, I was thinking, I haven't read anything in the rest of this film as being something that this speech is resolving, you know? And so the speech is the thing that stood out for me rather than the rest of the film kind of not making sense. To me, it was about her wanting him to recognise her value and her skills and all the things that she's been constantly overlooked for. And this thing about, you know, the promotion she was promised and didn't get and so on and so forth, that the patriarchy, you know, keeps her out of because it's him with his bros who he went to college with, who's been there for 6 months and he gets promotion instead, that kind of stuff. But, you know, to me, the interesting thing was that it wasn't going to be about him learning to appreciate her value, or you know, it implies it's going to do that. It shows you the start of that kind of process possibly happening. But then ultimately, what it's telling you is that will never happen. There is never going to be a world in which he sees her value. It's always going to be about ultimately he has to get away. He doesn't care about her. He doesn't see any of that. You know, that's why she goes quote unquote crazy.
What distressed me about the film is that it had the opportunity of being a great feminist, I don't know, fable or something. And instead of following through on that, they just turned her into this crazy woman, you know, this crazy killer.
I do sort of see what you mean,
This
but
mad woman, this witch.
I do sort of see what you mean, but I don't see it as, I suppose, as negative as you do. I don't see it. I see it as someone who is driven to the mental state that she is by the treatment that she has.
I mean, come on, we can acknowledge that we like lots of things about the film and still acknowledge that that's what the film does.
I mean, I'm not acknowledging it. I just don't necessarily think it's a problem.
Well,
I think, you know, it's as opposed to just like some crazy woman. Oh, it's always just some crazy woman. It's a crazy woman whose journey into that state of psychosis you can track. You can see the reasons that she's been there. You can hear the past with the abusive husband. You can see the treatment at work and by this boss that continues once he's relying on her on the island for 2-3 weeks. You can see how she gets there. It makes sense. As opposed to she's just lost it.
I mean, she basically kidnaps him. She knows there's help just around the corner, right? And refuses to tell him. She's keeping him a prisoner in that place, okay? I mean, these are all the actions of a madwoman. A normal, kind of reasonable person, even with one with grievances towards her boss, does not behave like that. So the only way that behavior is understandable is actually by reference to, you know, mental illness.
The psycho biddy. But I'm saying that I agree with that analysis. I'm saying I'm fine with it.
Well,
I'm fine with it.
I'm not fine with it.
I had a lot of fun with it.
Oh, no. So that's different.
Okay.
You know, I mean, you know, I remember a line from Pauline Kael's where she says, you know, I'm always suspicious of people who only like masterpieces. You know, because that's kind of inhuman, right? We all love junk and, you know, we all love lots of different kinds of things. But I'm saying this is a film that had the potential to be a really great film. And actually, it's just a bit of kind of superficial and manipulative kind of genre work that is really saved by the brilliance of the actors and the direction, which I think are brilliant. You know, and I think that's where the laughs come from. And I think, you know, had the film been cast with other people, it wouldn't be successful, because then all the plot holes, you know, and lack of motivation and actually lack of humanity, you know, would shine even more than they do now to me.
Can you describe what you see as manipulative, or is this something you feel you've gone over already?
Well, manipulative in the sense that you think that things are only done, you know, to get an effect, not with any reference to real human behavior, you know. And I think all of Rachel McAdams' character, once they reach the island, becomes kind of like that. It's only kind of legible, you know, via reference to, you know, someone being mentally unstable.
I mean, it's an extremely cartoony film, which you see probably first.
But it
and
doesn't
foremost...
begin that way.
No. But I was going to say you see first and foremost in the violence and the gore and the CGI bore and that sort of thing. You know, the vomiting, you know, the poking the eye.
Very funny,
right? It's not realistic violence. It's very cartoony. People are kind of, to some degree, surviving things they probably shouldn't. That to me is where the film's that is its kind of métier, because when they're sitting around that campfire and they're sharing stories about their pasts and who they are, it's actually uncharacteristically human at that point, I think. You know, it does have I suppose there's a tonal shift to it, but I mean, I always felt it did feel like it was in control of its tone. I didn't feel like it's a film that kind of got away from the director, if you like.
No. I think that, you know, the direction is superb, and my God, like some of the jokes are great. Like her vomiting on him, like, you know, I think I
must say it's very notable that we were laughing our tits off, and Jen was not interested in that. I mean, there's some real boy humour going on here. And actually, it must be said, if this is to be a feminist film, it's one that men like more than women, I think. Because
it fails at being
but I think it's
what it has the potential to be.
But it's a man's idea of a feminist film in a way, you know, expressed through what a man thinks is funny and cool and fun, you know.
Well, I mean, I think by the end of the film, no one can accuse it of being a feminist film. I'm just saying that at the beginning of the film, it had that potential to be.
Yeah.
Right. And the film steers you kind of that way. What did you make of the ending? That coda at the end, it made kind of, you know,
I liked the episode. It made me laugh, right? So, you know, we should say this will be a spoiler. We'll describe what the ending is that she's eventually been found out as having hidden this billionaire's house that apparently exists on this island from the guy, in the attempt to keep him there and so on. And she eventually kills him. She kills him with a golf club, which is, you know, the symbol of men keeping women out of the upper echelons of society, sort of thing. They can go golfing and the women don't, and so on. She kills him with the golf club, but then she has become a celebrity golfer herself. Well, not a celebrity golfer, sorry. She's become a celebrity, having survived a year ago now, and released a book, and she's got another book on the way. And she's in a celebrity golf tournament, and she's being interviewed, and, you know, how wonderful her life's going. She's now a minor celebrity on the basis of this. And, you know, she's got her life, she's got her bird back, which we saw at the start. She lives with her budgie, which, by the way, did that survive for 3 weeks on its own? Come on.
Birds are
maybe
ingenious creatures.
But, you know, it's the tone, you know, has been very heightened at the climax, blood and declarations of love and lying and blah, blah, blah. And then we immediately go into just this very calm, you know, TV interview and it's all bright and light and everything instead of dark and covered in blood. And so the tonal shift is clearly, you know, one that meant to indicate the absurdity that is then being brought out by all the stuff she's now doing in her new life as a celebrity. And it made me laugh very much. And I suppose I expected an extra sting after it. I was thinking Sam Raimi is not going to let you go without something else happening, some hallucination about, you know, because we've already seen the one hallucination about the woman that she killed. He thought something else will come back like this, like he'll leave you with some shock, you know. But he doesn't. He just leaves you with that look to camera that's like, I won, here I am. But I don't know. That's why I think the film is, you know, aiming at that kind of sort of self-assured pop feminism about it. You know, this is a story about the woman who overcame the patriarchy and did it her way and blah, blah, blah.
Well, I do think that, actually. And I think, you know, so that's another narrative twist that kind of makes no sense, but that then brings the film to another land in another place.
Yeah.
Because the message of the film with that coda seems to be that the only way that a woman can go ahead is to kill everyone who's in her way. Right? To kill all the men who are in her way. Which kind of Yeah, it is kind of like a female revenge fantasy. It becomes a female revenge fantasy.
It weirdly made me think of Gone Girl. Weirdly.
What?
Weirdly made me think of Gone Girl. You know, I mean, Gone Girl is a very
well.
clever
There you
film.
go. Yeah,
but it has that vibe, right? Like this
Yeah.
is the woman who figured out how to through acts of violence and creativity and craftiness got one over on the men who kept her down or put her in her box. And,
well, I think that is the way the film ends.
Yeah.
You see, so in that way, it answers to the beginning in an interesting way. But there's all the bits in between, right? Like I again kind of these plot turns that don't quite cohere really. Because if that's what she'd wanted to end up with once they landed on the island, she could have done it right away. Or, she could have done it right away once she discovered the house, right? Mm-hmm. So it doesn't quite cohere.
Sure.
Though, it's a great ending because it kind of ends on an up note, right? Where you forgive that she's basically a fucking killer. Yeah. So
I don't think there's a way of. I think any reasonably intelligent person who watches this film will go, the film wants me to like her, wants me to like everything that she's done or accept everything she's done and get why she's killing the people she's killing. And even if she goes into this, kind of state of psychosis and everything, we're with her, I think, on that journey. We get why she's going there.
And I think it's important to point out that we're also with him, because I think Dylan O'Brien's amazing because basically he plays the most despicable character, right? And he's very charming with it, and he's very convincing with it. He makes, he's got great reactions that are very funny, right? He makes you laugh, right?
Yeah.
But on paper, that is truly a despicable person.
Yeah. And in fact, I mean, when you look at it in contrast to the character who dies early on, who is his mate, who he gives the promotion to immediately, that is like a complete caricature of a male business prick. And he dies sort of very quickly, and you really feel like I'm very happy the way he's dying and how much the film is allowing me to enjoy it and so on. But it's a very broad caricature, and Dylan O'Brien's character has much more depth. And I'm not saying it's a very deep. It's still cartoon, I think, but there is much more to accept about kind of nuance and that sort of thing.
Well, he brings humanity to it, and he brings charm, and he brings laughter. Because on paper, I would argue, his character is exactly the same as the guy you hate at the beginning.
Yeah.
Really. It's just kind of one of those jock bros who, don't see women except as sexual objects and kind of, take credit away from them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose the thing with that secondary character who dies is that because he dies very quickly, we don't get any opportunity to see if he will develop into something once he's stranded on an island with her. He dies before he gets the opportunity to show any depth.
Well, but we also see that the Dylan O'Brien character doesn't actually change.
Yeah.
He always.
Well, that's why I didn't say change. That's why I said show any depth. You said change.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's right. Like, it's a funny thing actually. The film is also about social skills. And the thing which mostly is what's happening at the start of the film in the office, because what we see of her is very few social skills. She's very awkward. She's kind of likable. She wants to get on with you, but people rub up against her because she doesn't quite get it.
She's not conventional.
And but what we first see of Dylan O'Brien's character when he takes over the company is he's able to handle her. Right, like she bumps into him and she welcomes him and stuff in her kind of weird, quirky, or awkward way, and he is a little standoffish initially, but he winks, he gets it, he tells a little joke or whatever, and it's only when he gets to his office he's like, this woman's disgusting, I want to see none of the rest of her. But like he has social ability, and actually it's funny when he says, she finds out she's not getting this promotion that she's been promised, and she's been there for 7 years, and the other guy's been there for 6 months, and why is he getting promoted? Clearly it's very unfair. But when Dylan O'Brien says to her, I think you lack the social skills, the ability to charm a room and that sort of thing that he has. Now, it may be the case that it's still, he's his mate and everything, that's still true. But you think that's a reasonable reason to deny her the promotion to the position.
I didn't think that.
She's not going to be the right fit for this.
Well, I didn't think that because not all jobs require social skills.
But that one, I think, does.
But the company needs her I mean, actually, I think there's a critique in that, and there's a critique of that in the film, because basically what those boys represent is someone who doesn't do any work, who doesn't even know the job, right? You know, and who purely get by on where they went to school, who their friends are, and these social skills, right? You know, and so actually, I think it's also interesting that at the end of the film, she now has those social skills and she's golfing and, you know, so on, right? Yeah. So, it's kind of...
It is a film about her blossoming into a social creature that she wasn't before. Because the thing is, once she's on that island, just despite being coded as this dowdy, you know, spinster type and all this, and wearing a cardigan, and everyone hasn't like a, you know, she comes alive on that island when she's fending for herself.
She's got someone to talk to. That's not a bird.
But it's the thing of, you know, it's her suddenly being in an element. You know, she gets this world in a way.
Yeah.
Which
well, she can survive.
Well, she can survive there, and she has certain skills.
She's got knowledge and she's got skills.
Exactly.
And actually, so I think that's also what the film is saying, really, because, and I suppose my point, that you can't prevent her from being vice president because she's not socially skilled. Because actually, she's saving the company's ass all the time by being able to do wonderful things with numbers.
Yeah.
Right? That a company can't survive without someone like that, which is why the father recognized those skills and promised her, you know, that job, which he's denying, right? And so, you know, I think knowledge, I mean, that I think is a really kind of good thing about the film, that it values knowledge, right? Yeah. You know,
well, like I say, I mean,
knowing how to do things is important.
Well, like I say, I'm in agreement with you that it's unfair for her to have been denied this promotion, and I recognise all the same things that we're supposed to recognise as valuable in her character, even before she gets to the island and shows how good she is at setting up shelter and everything the rest of it. It's just that one particular thing I thought, that is not a terrible point.
No. I mean, having social skills is important.
But like the idea
someone who doesn't have any, I know how people they are.
But the idea that being shipwrecked on this island, you know, is what enables you to find this different dimension in yourself and come alive and become this different person once you're back in civilization at the end is kind of fun, you know.
Well, it's interesting that, you know, kind of the film's argument seems to be that, you know, the only way of getting ahead is by killing off all your competition and becoming superficial and playing golf.
If you can't beat them, join them.
So anyway, but I enjoyed it very much.
I had a wonderful time. I think it's probably Sam Raimi's best film in a little while. I mean, we did enjoy Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
I love that film.
You know, and that had similar kind of visual invention about it, and intensity, which I really, really associate with Raimi. Which is interesting because that's something he was able to do in that superhero film that wasn't quite. He really wasn't doing that in Spider-Man. As good as Spider-Man films were, they weren't the kind of the Raimi stylist you associated with his earlier work, I think. Actually, coming to Multiverse of Madness, I think one thing that they're doing when they're hiring a director like Sam Raimi for Marvel is they're asking him to bring what he does. You know, like don't necessarily fit into the mold of what these films are. Like bring your style, right? And that very much came out in that, and this even more so, I think.
Yes, though I don't know. I mean, you know, because I do think that Doctor Strange is a visually astonishing film, really, in a way that I don't think this is. Right, because, I mean, this is a two-hander, which is its own kind of achievement, right? You know, to make a film so entertaining and so funny and so, scary is the wrong word, but...
Thrilling.
Yeah, you know...
Shocking.
It shocks you out of your seat in a way, right? And then makes you laugh, which is a very Sam Raimi kind of trait, yeah. So... to make this film with basically two people is really, I think, quite an achievement. And an achievement for whom a large portion of the credit needs to go to the actors. You know, they carry that.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked it very much. I had a really, really good time. I think it's easy to recommend.
I feel the same. So thank you all very much for listening. We're Eavesdropping at the Movies, and we are on
Apple Podcasts, Audible, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, and YouTube Music. On social media, we're on Facebook and Twitter at Eavesdrop Movies, and Blue Sky, eavesdropping.bsky.social, and the website is eavesdroppingatthemovies.com.
Thank you very much for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.